Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Conshy United Methodist Church's Midweek Connection. My name is Reverend Dr. Tim Duchesne, and we're so glad that you're with us here today. We have a wonderful guest speaker, a longtime member of Conshy United Methodist Church, Greg Kriebel, who's going to lead us in his understanding of what it means to be a Christian. I invite you to check us out on the web for more information and other events at conshyunited.com. And at that, we're going to turn you over to Greg.
Good evening,
Welcome,
Pastor.
Greg.
Good evening, Pastor Tim. How are you?
Excellent. How about yourself, brother?
I'm feeling blessed today. I'm feeling excited, alive. I hope and pray that people get a positive experience from about what we're about to do.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So I just want to start off saying hello to everybody. My name is Greg Kriebel. Just want to thank you very much for joining us here online or on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you seem to be getting this right now. I see some names popping up. If you could please sign into the chat room. It's just I'd like to know who's chatting with us, listening. I see Carl and Nancy and Pat and Carl, Chris Tagg, Carolyn. So if you can just keep popping your name in there. Also, I would like to make this interactive. I want to try to have some fun. I want to try to be interesting. I want to challenge you. I want to be entertaining, and I want to be encouraging through this time. So I have a lot I would like to talk about, but basically the main focus of my talk tonight would be talking about why I feel and how I feel it means to be a Christian, and how I think that we can continue to change the world as Christians. So at this time, I would just like to ask this question to start off. If you could pop your answers into the chat room. Carolyn's going to give me a little help here. The question is, what does it mean to you to be a Christian? What comes to mind? What thoughts, what ideas, what concepts, what is a Christian to you? Is there a specific definition? Is there, a phrase, a word? If you can just take a moment or two, to pop that in the chat room, that would be fantastic. And again, I'm just grateful for this opportunity. Want to take a moment as you're popping your chats in there to say a quick prayer. Dear God, thank you for this time. Thank you for having the opportunity to have me on live stream, YouTube, Facebook, all the modern technologies. May the words that come out of my mouth be a blessing from you to those listening. Amen. So I see some chats coming in the box here. To be an imitator of Christ. That's awesome, Chris. Fantastic. But two of them, to be an imitator of Christ. Sharing the love like Jesus did. It's perfect. That's perfect. So I'll pause just another second to see if anybody else chings in on what it means to them. But it's so nice to see all these people. I can't wait when we're out of quarantine to be face-to-face again. That's my exciting goal, and it's brought positivity to the situation I've been praying about. So Carl chimes in, praying, walking in the light, and teaching of Jesus, being kind to others. Well, fantastic, Carl. That's exactly what I'll be talking about. So God has already started this connection. If you want, Carl, we can switch sides. You can join me on this side. And Jan chimes in, I live to please the Lord our God. Yeah. So tonight, in my opinion, I'm going to share with you how I feel about to be a Christian. I feel that this is a pretty simple answer for me. I feel that to be a Christian is to be a disciple of God, to love God, and to love your neighbor. And to be a disciple of God, it means that you need to develop a relationship with God as a friend, that as you develop that relationship, you pray to him. And the more you pray, and the more you listen, and the more you share your time, your talent, and your treasures with the Lord, he's going to bless us all. And once you do those, you share that same love that you're sharing with God with your neighbor. And as you continue to share that love, God wants to pour out his blessings upon us. And as I said, as that relationship grows over time, and grows over time and grows over time, you become more deeper, loving disciple of Christ. And what I like to say is a disciple is made, a disciple is not born. This is a time relationship that builds over time. It can start at any time. It can start from the day you're born. It could start when you're 5, 10, 15, 50, 90. It could start today. If you're hearing this message for the first time, I hope that it touches your life and you're transformed and intrigued by all the blessings that God can pour out, as long as you just relate with him, talk to him like I'm talking with you now. Oh, I just want to also say hi to Marion and Jan. I said hello to my mom. Hi, Sue. I guess Jake's there too. So is this easy to be a disciple, to love God and to love your neighbor? No, it's not always easy. Life's tough, life's challenging, but I will tell you this, it is one of the most rewarding thing, if not the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, is to have the continued relationship with God that has grown over time. And this happens to me, and I'm an ordinary person, just like everybody that's on this call right now. We're ordinary people, and we are called in a relationship with God to develop that relationship with God. That over time, when we follow him with our time, talents, treasures, and our prayers, that we can do extraordinary things. So as I now will go through a history of what our church has done, then I'm going to go into my life. I'm going to go into my life through COVID-19 and this quarantine, which I would consider a moment in time. And then we'll go into the future and what God has planned for us. So, starting with the church history. The church started in around 1850 under a tree. In 1906, the church at that time purchased the property that is currently on at the corner of 6th and Fayette Street. It opened in the year of 1908, so 2 years to build the beautiful church we have today. And it cost around $30,000, which was a boatload of money back then, which, if you can believe, there was families that started our church that took mortgages out on their own homes. That is just something that's so amazingly remarkable to me, that people had so much faith and belief that they would transform generations by the building of the church. It's awesome. And then during the time of World War II, in the 1940s, the church added on Steel Chapel, which is currently our nursery and our youth activity center, which was an amazing time, like during that, the World War, with everything going on. But we were dedicated enough to continue to try to expand God's love and show it to the world and to our neighbors. On July 4th, 1976 was the last time that the bell was rang in the bell tower. We had a bell in the bell tower since the day the church was born, but through years of decaying, they decided the best idea was to take the bell out for safety purposes. So that's what current steeple is now. Then we go forward to October of 1992. We had a fire at the church. It destroyed Ely Hall, which is now the kitchen area. The entire church had to be repainted, but the people prayed about what to do and how they could better serve the community. So they put in an industrial kitchen, the one we currently have today, which we've served meals out of, hosted many events. So it goes on and on. And then more recently, I forgot to add, in 1992, while we were out of the church, we were invited to go to First Baptist Church, which is right around the corner. And they took us in with the love that God shares. They have it over there as well, is they took us in so that we could still worship during the time for the, say, roughly 8 months that it took to remodel our church. And then in 2004, we did a Courage to Care campaign. Our 100-year-old slate roof was damaged. I know it brings back bad memories for me. So bear with me. Just wanted to, I mean, people can chime in on that one. I mean, Bob Mazars had trash cans. We were catching water, and we didn't know where to turn or what to do. So we did what we're called to do. We turned to God and we prayed and we focused our time, talent, and treasures on making sure that the church got fixed and stayed open. And from that, we decided to have a lofty expectational goal of $505,000 to refix the roof, do some pointing, stained glasses. But it's not just about bricks and mortar. It's about doing programs and enhancing worship. And through that, we upgraded our sound system. We got the video projector. So, from that on and on, we finally, in the 2-3 years ago, we finally paid off that loan. So we are debt free from the loan of $505,000 almost 16 years ago. I mean, so praise God that He was able to guide us through that. And we continued. We were persistently faithful with our prayers, to everybody. And also out of that, we got Jillian's Cafe now. We are reaching communities. We're working, which we'll learn more about in the missions part at the end of this discussion. But we're doing stuff. We're doing halls as a soup kitchen. We're reaching people with waters from around the world. Dave and Pat do that amazing job. Missions teams, missions projects, local missions. The list goes on and on and on about how we are loving our neighbor because we pray and trust in God. So actually, we are here right now on this live stream cast because of all the hard work and effort and prayers that people put forth before us to enable us to have this. Through the good times and bad, we have learned here at Conshy United Methodist Church that prayer is essential. It's the essential portion. It develops that relationship. And like I said, you may be new at this, or you may be doing it for, I've been doing it for 45 years. I'm alive, but I haven't actually been doing prayer for 45 years. But it goes on and on and on, but as we do it. So I have a question now at this time. We are currently in quarantine here in the state of Pennsylvania. And I would like to know is if you guys can just quick jot down some little chat stuff. I know that we are starting with the missions team and outreach. We're going to be doing something with the Conshy Fellow, the Conneaut Neighborhood Council. Conneaut Neighborhood Council. So if you can just throw out some ideas that potentially we could do as a church, either during quarantine or shortly after quarantine, that we can continue to love our neighbors and to ensure that CUMC is here for future generations, like the generations before us. They planted the seed and we continue to grow daily because of that, because of the love they share with God and the love of the neighbor. So if you just take a moment and jot down any quick thought, massive idea, little idea, could we, the one thing that pops into my mind is, there's a potential chance that we could make masks and donate them, to hospitals or charities. But if you guys take a second and just pop some ideas in the chat box, that'd be great. I don't know if Mike. So some other ideas I had were that we could donate food to the food basket. I know we do a Christmas clothing gathering. Offer your prayer hotline, Carol, and that's a fantastic idea. That's a wonderful thing. I know currently the leaders of the church have been asked to call around to other families to reach out, to touch the neighbor, to try to stay in contact for any needs they have. I saw something the other day where people were going grocery shopping for elderly or shut-ins that couldn't get out. So But if you think of those along the way, just they'll pop into your head, because at the end, I have a little challenge. So now I would like to just go on to my life. I've been very blessed. I'm 45 years old. I was born and raised in Conshy, and my parents have always brought me to Conshy United Methodist Church. Since a little boy, I would come to church in Sunday school, but I would never go to the service. I would play. So when I was a child, my parents were always like amazing people. They're online now, so this is a little shout out to you, Mom and Dad. I remember when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. Excuse me, sorry. And I remember that we would always do our best to give things away and to help other people. And sometimes my parents would work. My parents would work and not get paid. And I remember as a child how dumb I was. But I would say to my mom, "You're crazy." And she would say, "No, I'm not." She says, "That's what we're called to do, because God loves us, and God will bless us, and God will take care of our family." And okay. Got through that. So as you can see, I'm an emotional guy. But I will tell you, my parents have always been there. Through love, through thick times, good times, bad times, I've been blessed. We always ate dinner as a family, something which now my family's getting back to because of quarantine. But the amazing part is we were never felt like we were in need of things, because of my parents' commitment to the church and the commitment to God. Like I said, my mom had this saying that God would take care of it, and that God had a plan. And Dad, I know you're listening. You also at the same time would say that you weren't supposed to be here after 30. Well, God had a plan, and you're still here. So thank you. I love you. So as I grew up, like I said, I was a child. I thought like a child. Thank you for all the chats that are coming in. I appreciate that, the love, the support. So I appreciate that. The notes here, I can read some as we're going to. We could, so I can recall back. I can go through my whole history, but I'll just stick with a couple points that I decided that would be poignant for this moment. I was always in and out of the church. When I graduated high school, I went to a Catholic college. I learned about Catholicism and what it means to be a better Christian, a better person. But I never went to church there. And when I came home, I was going to church for a little bit. I was out of church. Then I went back to church. And then finally, it was in 2000, is when I started to seek God on my own. I asked my father for a Bible at Christmas. And as the Bible came to me, things in my life started to get away from me. It sounded strange, right? But I'm glad I had the Bible, because it explained that God had a plan for me. And even though it wasn't always perfect, it wasn't always what I wanted, but God's plan is not always what we want. So I learned quickly in 2000, as I was seeking God and seeking information and seeking answers, my heart was broken for the first time in my life by a girl. I got sick. I started to question a lot. Was really depressed, but I started to pray a lot too. And I started to develop my relationship with God in 2000. And then with God's help and blessings in 2002, I bought my house that I currently live in now, which I sit in right at this moment. And I'll never forget the guy, the realtor, and then the home equity line gentleman that I got the money from. They laughed at me, and they said, "There's no way you'll be able to afford the house. Like, you don't have any money." And I said, "I have money." I said, "I have family and friends, and I'll make it work." And with God's help and my family and neighbors and friends' help, I was able to buy the house, furnish the house with all different pieces of furniture from all around the neighborhood. And I was able to make all my bills, paid every bill. And I remember how tough it was. I mean, excruciating to try to figure out where this money was coming from. But I kept praying and praying and praying and reading the Bible. And miraculously, it just came. Like, I was blessed. Like, it just, I can be very proud to say I've never missed a mortgage payment. I mean, it's a blessing from God. Truly is. It's the most amazing thing is owning a house and trying to figure out how to pay for it. So I pray for those in the time now of how they're handling that. That same year, I also went to 5 weddings in a row. I'll never forget the last wedding. I gave my best friend $25. That's all I had. I didn't have any more. And also at that time, I did not make a commitment to the church. I just didn't feel as comfortable. I felt awkward, like saying I would commit a certain amount of money and then not doing it. Then we go on from that moment. I started going on mission trips. I started to participate in them, and I led a couple mission trips. And I feel super blessed. 2 of my favorite people from the church in that aspect are Drew and David Montemayor. They were under me as I led them, and now they are currently being leaders of the church themselves. So it is just truly awesome to see leaders and leadership grow as you plant the seed in their. So then also in 2002, I met Jen, who now is my wife. That's a different story, a long story, a great story. In 2003, I joined the church for the first time. That's when I first made my first ever commitment financially to the church. I committed $500, which I figured was $10 a month, and I managed to do it. And God has blessed me and blessed me and blessed me moreover ever since. In 2004, when the Courage to Care campaign was being kicked off, I prayed about it, and I felt led to be the head of the campaign. So I was the chairperson for the campaign. I did calls like this. I did presentations. I did sermons. I was 29 years old at the time. I really was, to be honest, I was scared, but I knew with what I was reading through the Bible that God had a plan for me. And I don't know what the plan is, but it's there and it's in place, and he will bless me if I do the simple task of praying to him, talking, listening, giving my time, talent, and treasures. In 2005, I got married, and kind of like the next rest of that generation from then until now, I have a beautiful wife. She's incredible. She works extremely hard for our family. Plus also she does so much work outside, donations, charitable donations, time, talent, and treasures to everything. I mean, she is truly, truly a blessing to me. We have 2 incredible children, which most of you know. I've actually also been able to travel the world, through Jen's work. We've been to Italy, Shanghai, China, Beijing. It's just been a roller coaster. France. It's been fun. It's been incredible. We also had our downturns. Both my children have allergies. Both of them have been hospitalized. Alex had a crazy mouth fungus. I've been hospitalized a couple different times with unknown sicknesses and illnesses. Just not sure what they are or where they came from. And one of the hardest things was my youngest son, Justin, was going to Rita's Water Ice. It's right across the street from our house. And he decided to let go of the nanny's hand, and he ran into the side of a moving vehicle. But I can tell you, we are so blessed that he was 1 second late, and he ran into the side of the car, and all that happened was he lost a tooth. So, I mean, just my entire life story, I can tell you, the more that I focus on God, the more I can tell you that I've been blessed. He wants to bless us. He wants to always be there. God has always been in my life, even before I knew God, before I started talking to God in 2000. I mean, when I was born and I fell out of a car, I was pushed out of a car. I was okay. I've broken things, I've cut things, all the good times and all the bad times, God is there. So I promise you, he is there. It takes time. Maybe it happens instantaneous for you, or maybe it takes years and years, but I guarantee you he is there, and he wants to develop the relationship with you. So now that leads me to the blessing that I currently am in. So I've been very fortunate that when my wife made partner in her firm, that I've been able to be a stay-at-home dad. I've been able to be a stay-at-home father for my two boys. I drop them off at school. I go work for a little bit, and then I get them, and I get to spend quality time with my children. It's been an amazing joy. My wife works a ton. She sacrifices a ton for us, and we are grateful. So that leads me now into this time called quarantine, COVID-19. We have been constantly running around, the kids and I, Little League games, soccer, basketball, baseball, for the last year. And I actually was getting a little tired. I'm like, I could probably use some time off. Like I wasn't going to coach, but I coached, and I wasn't going to do this, but I ended up doing something with the boys. And then just right before COVID-19, I had spent 20 hours refixing the Little League fields for the kids. And I remember when they told me that we weren't going to play, I'm like nervously crushed. I don't even know what to say. This is kind of the craziest thing for me, because I thought life was like perfect. I was loving life. It was exactly, I wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. I got my wish. And now I got my wish. I'm home with my two children and my wife, and I'm so happy. But then depression set in, anger set in, challenges set in, fighting with my family and kids now that are my neighbors. They're my love, but we're fighting. I even got to the point the other day as my one son's becoming Evel Knievel, and he's riding his bike and jumping stuff, and he pushes my limits. I pray that he stops, but he didn't stop. And I know that I don't want him to get hurt, but it finally came out of my mouth. I said, I don't care if you get hurt. And I was wishing I shoved those words right back. So I talked to him about it, and I prayed to him about it, and I apologized to him, because I can't believe it actually came out of my mouth that I said I don't care if he gets hurt, because I do. Because I love him so much that sometimes, as I started out, children are children, then they grow into an adult. So it just takes time, and we need to be patient. I would kind of similar sense the way God is patient with me, because I don't always listen to him, or hear him, or talk to him. So through this time, it's not been the best. I can only imagine what people are going through with loss of jobs and furloughs and other things. I mean, I'm blessed. My wife is still working. We have our health. We have a house. We can pay our bills. So there's people in the world that actually have problems. Mine are more mental problems, anger problems, personal problems, where I'm finally realizing one of the things majorly that I was not doing was I was not having those conversations with God. I was not praying as much as I was. I was not focused on what he had to pull positive from the situation. So I figured finally, after going through a bunch of terrible days, I said to myself, this is enough. I'm done with COVID-19. I'm done with quarantine. I'm done with negativity. I'm getting back to the guy who I used to be, the positive person that impacts people's lives. And through phone calls, I talked about doing all this other odds and ends stuff through phone calls, letters, Bible studies, stuff. I just hadn't done it. Like, I thought about all this stuff, but I hadn't put anything into action. So the one action I did start to do is I started to clean my house. So I don't know if you guys are all doing that same thing. As I started to clean my house, the garage, the basement, the filing cabinets, I came across some stuff that was just, God placed it there. I said I got my first Bible in 2000. I finally found it. It was lost. It was in my house. I couldn't find it. Here, I must have boxed it up when we put an edition on 10 years ago. I found it. So I pulled it out, and it's amazing to open it up and to reread it. And, that's just a blessing. I also found some notes and some pictures and cards that my grandfather and my father have written to me. It's slowly starting to help me snap out of this. And the other thing that happened is that getting back to, I don't know if that happens to other people, but it definitely happens to me, is if I'm about to run into a wall, I'll stop myself because God will stop me. Or if something pops into my head, I should call Mrs. Ellen. Boom, Mrs. Ellen calls me. These things, I call them God moments. So I happen to see Jim Lipinski jumping on with us, man. Miss you, brother. That's a God instance right there. I thought about Jim the other day. But it just things that pop into your head, those moments that break you back into putting in the time with God, with your time, talent, and treasures, But as it was said, there is, let me check my notes here. Through this whole time for COVID and quarantine, I've finally gotten back to this thing. So you said praying and talking to God, and then also listening for these moments again. So one of these moments happened the other night. I was thinking about what I was going to say tonight, and it popped up on the screen that there was a show called God Friended Me. And I don't know if anybody's watched the show, but it's a pretty cool show. I've seen just some bits and pieces of it. I've actually watched the whole thing. But in it, basically God talks to this one guy, and then he has to deliver things to certain people or messages. And this message he had to deliver this past week was to his sister. It was a Bible. So I went and I found the Bible, and I found the verse, and it's Jeremiah 29, verses 11 and 13. 11 to 14. So I just want to take a second and read that to you. So here's my Bible I found. So Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 11 to 14. It says, from God, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call me upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek with all of your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and I will bring you back from captivity. I just think that is one of the most perfect verses for this time. I call this a moment in time. I was just doing math with my son on how long this is. He's 10 years old. We'll say, make it easy math. He's been alive for 120 months. Quarantine isn't 2 months yet, but we'll say it's 2 months. So for the other 118 months, his life has been totally fine. This is a moment in time which we will get through, which we will transpire, and we will continue to forge paths. I promise you that, because God has the plan. We don't know what the plan is, but God does. God leads our lives and guides us through the plan. So I asked this earlier. So what is it we can do now? And in my opinion, this is what we need to do. We need to pray. We need to reconnect God on a deeper relationship. I mean, a lot of the times in the past history, people have said, I don't have time for this, or I don't have time for that. Well, I would think right now we have a lot of time for a lot of things that we've been putting off. Relationships, developing. So the question is, I asked this earlier just to pick your brain. What are some other things we can do right now? One definitely for me is we can pray. We can definitely pray. And, it's just like a missions thing for the church. I saw a couple pop up. Let's see if I can scroll back up. I saw some great stuff on the screen here. Send cards to folks by Marianne in nursing homes. I do know Mr. Klink, our gentleman from our church. He is unable to leave or have visitors. He has no internet. He can take phone calls, but he's very lonely. So if we send cards, that's a fantastic idea. I think Carl Esso had said something about putting food out front of the church, right? Give food in front of the church one day for lunch. Yep, fantastic idea, Carl. I'm scrolling down as we do this, so bear with me. So, I'm sorry if I'm missing some. But that is my question for you right now. I would just like to say that I'm blessed and that I love all of you here at the church. And I'm so proud to be part of this church. I can tell you that as me, as an ordinary human being, I'm nothing special. I'm just a guy that loves God. And God has blessed me. And because I believe that, I love God and I love my neighbor and try my best. It's not easy. It's not something that comes easy, but it is so rewarding. It is the most amazing thing. So I also see Hannah just popped in there to call friends. Thank you for all these great ideas. But I will also say, I just read that Bible verse. I read a Bible verse every morning. I go through the day and I've gone through my life majority. I can't quote 10 Bible verses. I can't. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm very proud that I read it. I study it. It just doesn't, the verse to the exact T, I don't know. But I know that I feel in my heart that I'm living out what God wants me to do. With that, Carolyn, this could be crazy. But Carolyn, could you put up my email address? And also, Carolyn, do you know how many people are on the live chat or can see? I don't know if you can see that or flash a number. I'm guessing that there were 20.
We just lost him somehow. Thank you, Greg, so much for sharing from your heart. Really appreciate that. That was wonderful. Here he comes back again. We got him. Technology.
Modern technology and I are not friends. Carol, do you have a number of people that are watching or were listening?
About 34 to 35.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I got one last thing, and then I want to close with joys and concerns. So, Pastor Tim, you're welcome to stay there. So, Carol, you see my email address. I've prayed about this. I've thought about this idea, and you guys have started the process and planted some seeds. So this is what I am going to do. I want you guys to send me your name and your address. The 35 people that are on this live chat now. I know it's going to rerun, so I got to state it like that. And I'm calling this my COVID-19 2020 $20 challenge. I will send each person that sends me their name and their mailing address, I will send them $20. I want them to decide however they choose and deem through prayer to use that money. If you want to use the money to help yourself to buy groceries, or you need to pay a bill, please feel free to do that. If you want to give it away to a family neighbor that's struggling, please do that. It's completely up to you. Like I said, I had no money. I had nothing. I put some dollars away, and those dollars multiplied. So now I feel as if I need to give a tithe off of that money back to the community. So this is the way I'm doing it. So for each person, like I say this again, that sends me their name and mailing address, I will send them $20. And then I would love to hear back, not mandatory, but I would love to hear back of how you connect with the community and further the ministry of God through this time, through quarantine, whichever way, think about it, pray about it. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, but, next week, next month, next year. Just remember, I remember a pastor still to this day has given me a pack of juicy fruit bubble gum, which I put in my pocket. And that juicy fruit bubble gum has helped me stay calm in terrible situations. So it's just it's a matter of, of things like that, memories. So yes, a lovely blessing to all of us, Lisa. Thank you. You're welcome. Just wanted to close by saying thank you. It's just been a blessing to be here tonight. Sorry about my little technical difficulties. Thank you for all sharing this time with me. Please see us on our website, YouTube, Sunday mornings. We have happy hour on Friday nights. Also, look out for the what we'll be doing as a ministry, as a church, to reach out to the community through Colonial Neighborhood Council coming up. See ways that you'll be involved. So with that, I would love to ask everybody for prayer requests at this time. And if you can just send in some prayer requests. I have a prayer request for Mike Williams, a family friend that he was burned and burned over 80% of his body. He's recovering. So prayers for him. Prayers from Uncle Lou. I see. And all you are welcome. Thank you so much for your prayers that got me through this. I cried a lot more in practice. I'll cry again as soon as this is over. But just God's blessed me with my mom and dad and all of you. I've had so many leaders and friends and family. And I want to send a prayer out to Mrs. Frances Ellum. Mrs. Frances is one of the most amazing people ever. Just so you guys know, I reached out to her. She's doing great. She felt so blessed by me that she wanted to bless me with a coconut cream pie. So she made it for me yesterday. It's delicious. And then also at the same time, when I went to pick it up, she handed me her offering and she said, Greg, just please make sure this gets into the plate. She is just a true gift to all of us. Prayers from Chris Pegg. My neighbor has to travel to Florida. Prayers for the Forsyth family from the Kriebels. Traveling mercies for Mackenzie. Let's keep them flowing, and this is awesome. It's such a great time. The Lasky family on the passing of Howard. Traveling Peace family. The Travel Peace family. We lost Sue's little Jimmy mom's uncle. Sorry, I'm butchering that, Jim. Sorry. But my son in wrestling with clarity and sobriety. Thank you, Lisa. Prayers from Chris Armstrong for the Todd family and the passing of Mr. Tony Todd. So, dear, thank you. Keep them coming, guys. And we'll finish on this. A joy. Bob got to talk to his mom. Yes. And she's doing great. That's awesome. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for everybody for joining me and joining the church tonight. Just please, if anything that I said touches you in any way, please pass it forward. Pray to God, love God, be a disciple of God, share your time, talents, treasures, and gifts with him, and love your neighbor. It's simple to say, not always so simple to do, but as we do it, we will continue to grow. So I will close with this prayer. Fold our hands and bow our head. Dear God, thank you for this time. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your plan. Dear God, we don't know what your plan is, but you ask us to trust us, and you say to us, ask and it will be answered, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open. So dear God, we'll be praying that to you. We're praying for your love, for your guidance, for your healing, for your relationship. And God, please let us be good listeners and let us be good disciples to show the world that you live. Amen. So thank you all. God bless you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Greg, so much. Blessings to everyone.